My friends, welcome to the Black and White Mixer Primer. Before we jump into this, I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting Visual Flow development tools. My name is Pi. I'm going to be your host, your guide through this short tutorial on how the Black and White Mixer works. To be honest, it's very simple, but the Black and White Mixer is also very powerful. I want to get you guys off and creating incredible black and white images and not missing out on any of these features that are built into the Black and White Mixer pack. So let's jump straight into this. I'm going to divide this primer into 3 parts. In part 1, we're going to talk about the one-click presets that are included with the Black and White Mixer, which there are a total of 10. These are final looks that are ready to go. We're also going to discuss the VF Mixer, a powerful profile slider that we've built into the entire system. Part 2, we're going to discuss Mixology. This is how you mix and match to create an infinite variety of your own black and white looks. Then in part 3, I'm going to show you how the Black and White Mixer works in conjunction with the retouching toolkit for an advanced kind of edit and advanced looks. Let's get straight into this. I have a few different raw files that we're going to use as exercise files. I'm going to prep these, so if you'd like to download them for exercise files, you can, or you can just load up your own raw images. Remember that the Black and White Mixer is designed for raw conversions. You're going to get the best looks, the best effects out of raw files, not JPEG files. Later down the road, we might have a mobile version of this pack, and that one will be designed for mobile and for JPEG use. But this one is for raw conversion. At this point, you should have already installed the presets. To do this, you simply log into your develop account, download the installer, and it's all automated. There is no manual install for any Visual Flow presets. So if you somehow got something like that, it's not legit. And please, just as a reminder, do not share your develop account with anyone. We can and do detect piracy. And so if we notice accounts are being shared, those accounts actually get shut down. Okay, let's dive straight into this. Let's talk first about our one-click looks, specifically when it comes to portraiture. So I have here a raw file that's completely reset out. I'm inside of Lightroom Classic and the Black and White Mixer is installed. So to the left, we see the mixer. Right here under 00 is what we call final mixes. These are your 10 one-click looks that are ready to go. So we have 6 designed for portraiture and 4 designed for landscapes. You can click through each of these and see they're quite simple, easy to use. Classic portrait is going to have a very soft kind of classic look to it. And then we have the cinematic variant that gives it a nice kind of dark and moody vibe with a bit of grain. And same thing on bold portrait. This is a high contrast look. The cinematic version kind of pulls it down, makes it more cinematic, a little bit kind of filmy, adds a bit of grain, that kind of stuff. And we have HDRs. This is for environmental portraits, right? And the same cinematic look for this. So you start with a final mix, or at least I'm going to show you how the final mixes work. So what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to go ahead and choose Classic Portrait Cinematic, okay? Like all Visual Flow presets, these names are designed to tell you essentially exactly what the preset's doing without ever having to actually click and not know. So I want a standard, nice black and white, but for it to be cinematic. What's important here is if you notice over here at the profile, you should see now the option where it says VF Mixer. This is a specialized profile that we created. And what I designed in this is essentially a LUT that's built into the black and white profile that allows you to ramp up the effect. Okay, so right here on amount, you can actually dial this all the way up to 200. The beauty of this is that it's completely independent of contrast. In fact, it works quite a bit different than contrast. See, the mixer slider is going to increase overall contrast, but it does it in a way that keeps highlights and shadows safe and more preserved than simply contrast. On top of that, you can layer it. So you could actually add, let's say 70 amount, and then you can also add contrast as well. So this is one of the most powerful features of this kit. Not only do you have these final looks that are ready to go, but you have a slider that controls the intensity of each look. Just take a look at this. I'm going to create a virtual copy and I'm going to reset out the first image, press V. This is where the standard black and white conversion would have gone. And this was, look, 1 click for Classic Portrait Cinematic, 2 clicks on the slider, and we're done. Now compare. What a massive difference in terms of overall conversion and the way that the image looks from the system. Let's do another one. This go around, I'm going to select bold portrait. Okay, I like it. Bold portrait does just that. It creates a high contrast, punchy look. Now I'm going to punch it up more with the VF mixer, and let's incorporate the toolkit just a bit in adding a radial burn. So I'm going to put the radial burn, press Shift M, and just drag it right over our puppy. And look at that. Again, how few of clicks we used to get from this to this final image. It's kind of nutso, right? Let's go one more. Let's do this one. And for this guy, let's go ahead. Well, it's not a guy, it's a girl. But for this image, let's do bold portrait cinematic. So it's a high contrast filmic look. And I freaking love the way that this looks already. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the exposure a little bit, add in a bit more of the intensity. And let's go ahead and bring in just that radial filter right over my subject. And I can change the shape if I want to. Again, look at the difference in these two conversions. This is nuts. It's crazy how far you can go, how quickly with this system. That, like all of our presets, I want them to be set up to make your guys' creative vision that much easier to accomplish. So let's look now at the landscape side of this. You'll notice that we've included 4 landscape presets with the black and white mixer that are final and ready to go. It's bold landscape cinematic, HDR landscape, and HDR landscape cinematic. Again, these are designed for landscapes, but this kind of a shot is really, this is an environmental portrait, but it's really more of a landscape than it is a portrait, right? So I might, for this image, just select bold landscape. We get to a really great look. I might even choose the cinematic variant of it and just increase that mixer a little bit. Same thing here. This go, I'm going to choose HDR landscape. This is what the standard conversion looks like with HDR landscape. And just again, look at this. This is what the black and white looks like. This is one click with the HDR landscape, right? And we have the ability to go up and down. I might even add another radial filter kind of right in the center of the image. Look how beautiful that is. I mean, this is exactly what we're aiming to do. We want to take, these other plugins and applications that are not Lightroom, right? Like silver effects and all these other things. They do such cool things, but we wanted to bring that to a Lightroom workflow where you can all do it all non-destructively. And I feel like we've really accomplished that in the black and white mixer. Okay, so that's how the mixer works. That's how the one clicks work. So if I go back to this and select any of these, this one click are the final presets that are ready to go. 10 of those, you have those. Now let's go to part 2. We're going to discuss Mixology. So Mixology is a simple workflow that we actually took inspiration from way back when I designed the SLR Lounge presets. Now those presets were really meant for more educational use, but we did this fun thing where you can kind of mix and match and create recipes. I wanted to bring that to the black and white mixer, but I wanted to simplify it and make it actually usable from a professional workflow standpoint, and also to kind of tie into Visual Flow's lighting condition based development. So with Mixology, what you can do is start with any base. If you want, you can start with a final mix, or you can just simply go to one of the lighting conditions. So I can choose any lighting condition I would like. So say for example, let's go ahead and just do a couple mix images. We're going to choose this one, okay? Let's fix the horizon line first, just so it doesn't bother us. Let's do a standard black and white conversion by pressing V. And now let's go from here. If I press, and they're labeled, so 01, 02, 03, they're designed to be used in order, okay? So you simply go from 1 to 2, so it's a maximum of 4 clicks, but it doesn't have to be. You can stop anywhere you like. So I'm going to start with the lighting condition. And I'm going to go, I want this to be an HDR. Do I want it to be a natural HDR or a full HDR? I think I want this actually to be a full HDR in this image, okay? Notice that it automatically builds in the Visual Flow Mixer profile. So that's why this says VF Mixer and lighting condition. Okay, from there I choose the curve. I can go with a fade, I can go with a subtle fade, neutral, bold, or a really high impact curve. I'm going to choose bold plus for this image. Now I'd like to soften the image up because this is kind of a close-up portrait. So I choose stylization. So this is going to control the level of detail in the image, right? From a standard portrait to something more dramatic, to a street portrait, which is even crazier. And granted, we don't want to go there with this image, to landscapes as well. So let's do soft portrait on this image. That controls detail. Now I can add color grading if I like. This is just to bring in a bit of color tone back to our black and white, something that some of you guys have been requesting, and I wanted to have that, but I want it to be in a nice and natural way. So these are all very subtle tones. They're designed to be classic and not things that we'd look back on and be like, ew, sepia, that looks gross, but instead to have just a subtle bit of toning. So I'm going to keep the cool toning for this look. And that's it. We can also adjust up and down the mixer. Now, when you get it to this point and you're like, that's perfect, this is what I want, you can go back to the tools as well and you can say, I don't want any vignetting. So post-crop vignetting is built into some of the looks just to kind of help out with the style, right? So you can build this in, take it out, whatever you'd like. I'm going to leave it right here, actually. It looks kind of cool. And what we're going to do now is save it out as a new mix. So you simply click plus to create a preset. You're going to choose the visual flow group. You're going to go black and white mixer. Okay, you're going to follow the naming convention right here. So let's drop it in, HIJK. Okay, so 00K dot, and give it a name. So I might call this cool HDR environmental. Actually, I'm going to call this cool HDR portrait. Okay. And what you're going to do is select the check all button, then deselect exposure, white balance. You don't want graduate or radial filters. We want the black and white mix, the color grade, noise. We can leave our lens corrections. We can turn off transform, and effects and calibration is good. So I would recommend you pause here and just screenshot this. This is what you're going to use as far as your settings whenever you want to update or save out a preset. Now you're going to click create and it drops it right there. This is a new final mix now where it's ready to go. It even saves your intensity level here. So if there's any of these presets that you want to adjust, you can do the same thing. You can click one of the final mixes. You can adjust the lighting condition to whatever you like. You can add in a color. You can right click back on that and use those same settings. Go to update and use the same settings to update that look. I'd kind of recommend instead of updating those looks, just kind of create new ones. That way you're not overriding, you know, the ones that are basically already tested and ready to go. These are tested across hundreds. Each of these have been tested across hundreds of raw files. In total, thousands of images have gone through the testing. So rather than go and overwrite those, I would just create new ones. And at any point I can delete this. I can just right click and select delete. And this is how you can create your own mixology. So remember, you can start with one of the existing presets and you can simply go and say, I'd like to add cool toning to this and save it out as a new one. You can also start from the base with the VX mixer and lighting condition and go straight through it. So there's no right and wrong. You can mix and match however you like, and you can post to the group or on Instagram. When you post, say, hey, I started with HDR portrait on this one. I took it to HDR plus. I then softened with stylization, and that's how I got to this final look. I took the VF mixer up and boom, that's the final image. So it's designed to really empower our entire community in sharing their knowledge and talking about how they got to these places without being like, take highlights down to -77 and whites up to this and use this for your control points for your curve, and you know what I'm saying. Let's go and look at a landscape image from the standpoint of the mixology, right? Again, here I can go bold landscape and already this looks beautiful. By the way, the landscape and all these presets are designed to maximize detail in your photographs, right? So that's why we want it to be raw. That's also why we want it to be a well-exposed raw file. You're going to get the best result out of the most information possible on your images. So look, I applied bold landscape. We already get to a beautiful spot, but if I want, I can go down to stylization and I can actually deepen the blues. So this is dramatic landscape. This is dramatic landscape plus, and it says deep blues next to it. So it's going to give me deeper, darker blues. That can be a variant of bold landscape that I save out. Bold landscape plus deep blues. Okay, let me create a virtual copy of this. And once again, I want you to look at the standard conversion versus our 2-click. Look, we did bold landscape, deep blues. That was a 2-click conversion, and look at the difference between these two files, okay? If you see this posterization, that's actually in the preview. So if you click to zoom in, you'll notice that once it renders the full one-to-one preview, that posterization goes away. So if you ever notice that, usually it's the Lightroom preview that's causing it. Just click to zoom in and it'll disappear, okay? Huge difference from the standard conversion. Beautiful. Okay, let's do one last thing. So let's go to part 3. Let's now talk black and white mix or black and white mixer with the retouching toolkit. So I have here another raw file. This is completely reset out. Let's go ahead and just start by correcting our horizon line a bit. And then we're going to go to, I think, HDR Portrait Cinematic for this one. I really want to bring the cloud detail out, and I want to bring them out. So from here, I'm going to just go into my toolkit, and I can do a variety of things. Now remember, too, that under the black and white mixer, I could expand the HDR, right? So I can bring it up to HDR plus to pull out just a bit more detail. Cool. Okay. I can also give a bit more oomph to the portrait. So if I want this to be more of a fade, then I can select the fade. This is where the cinematic kind of drops in at, but I can also add a neutral profile. I can also add a bold look to the image. So I'm actually going to customize this a bit. Let's go with bold just for giggles. All right. Now I'm going to go to tools. First thing I'm going to do is my typical radial burn. I'm going to drop this right over them in the center and pull this in a little bit. We're going to leave it at that 0.5. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my adjustment brushes, and from the retouching toolkit, I could do the exact same thing that I always do. Let's start with actually a quick dodge and lift. I'm going to zoom into them. Okay. Let's not let the computer freak out. And I'm just going to paint this right over them. This is our quick dodge and lift that you already know how to use. You're just going to paint that in. And I like to paint it loosely, especially over subjects like this that are against a nice, clean kind of background where there's good differentiation. I like to kind of paint it in loose. And then what I'll do is I'm actually going to zoom out and paint this in just a little bit more haphazardly. So let's just get it over them. Okay. I'll adjust the strength to where I want it. So I'm going to pull it up a bit. Now holding down Alt or Option, and to adjust strength, you hold down Alt or Option, slide to the left and right. You guys probably know that from the retouching toolkit video. Holding down, make sure that when you're applying this, by the way, turn off the auto mask when you're applying this, because with it on, you can get some weird kind of artifacts when you're painting over people. So turn that off when you're minusing. So holding on Alt or Option and subtracting, then turn on auto mask and simply drive this right along the edges of their body. Now auto mask does a beautiful job of like separating them from the background. Whereas if you use auto mask on their bodies, like from inside, it doesn't do that great of a job. So notice how auto mask did a really great job of kind of controlling the overall mask. Now let's select this. And what I'm going to do is go down to range mask to luminance. And I'm actually going to pull this off the shadows. See, I want the highlights to be brightened, but I don't want the shadows. So I'm going to bring the range off the bottom until I see the shadows kind of retained right about here. Then I'm going to go ahead and soften it just a bit by smoothing a little bit more. And this looks really cool. I'm going to add in one more thing. Let's go down to sky clouds and let's just punch up our sky a little bit. I mean, it's already punchy, but let's punch it up a bit more. Okay, so look at this. This is nutso because we can spend just a couple moments, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy. Let's just copy the crop over to this image. And let's go ahead and copy, actually exposure's at 0 anyway. Okay, so now we're looking at apples to apples, the same exact crop and composition. And let's go ahead and just zoom in so it gives us a good rendered preview on each side. I don't want this grainy preview. Adobe has said they are optimizing Lightroom speed. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling it yet. Okay, there we go. Zoom back out. Look at this. This is nuts. I mean, the fact that you can do this right now inside of Lightroom and we haven't even touched Photoshop or Silver Effects or any other application, that's exactly what we're trying to create with every Visual Flow tool. Tools that make your workflow better, that bring a wide range of creative possibilities to your raw workflow. Now I'm done with the primer. I hope you guys enjoyed. I wanted to keep this short so you guys can start creating. And when you do, take your files, take your images, those gorgeous works of art that you have, and place them into our community with a before and an after. So that's on our Facebook group. We'll link it up. Jump in there, post there, not only so you can kind of share with the community how you created what you did, but so that we can actually feature your work. So we're constantly looking for great befores and afters to feature on Instagram. We'll of course tag you and credit you for the work, but let us show off your amazing creations. And if you're uploading straight to Instagram, just tag Visual Flow Presets. So at VF Presets, we'll see it and we can share your posts and give you some awesome recognition for the amazing work that you're doing. Okay, I hope y'all enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the group and in our next video. Peace.